Welcome to the Boneyard with Steve Robertson. As always, I am your good friend and host, Steve Robertson, here on the magnificent Monday edition of the Yard. It's cold in the South, and we don't get this very often. I guess we'll enjoy it. It's a different feeling for sure. But be careful out there today, kids. I know many of you are already dealing with some very significant snow. They say we're supposed to get some flurries here around noon today at Stark Vegas. Not supposed to be long-lasting. That doesn't mean that we're not going to shut down the entire state, because you never know with us. We're crazy like that. We get something a little bit different. We don't know how to handle it. But, some of you are really dealing with some significant weather. Be careful out there. And as a reminder, please take care of your outside pets, or as our friend Carol in Albany says, if it's too cold for your pets outside, be sure to go out there and stay with them. But nevertheless, interesting weekend for the Bulldogs. You know, we had several 2025 visitors. We had a couple of signees that were in town just to kind of hang out and go to a basketball game and things like that. But, had some junior visitors. We've had reaction to that over at genespage.com. Rion already pumped out a handful of stories, and I spoke to offensive lineman Lionel Prudhomme from Shreveport, Louisiana earlier today. So we'll get you up to date on all that stuff. I know some people are just kind of taking their breath. And like Steve, we're not even done 2024. You're already pushing juniors down my throat. Well, that's what we do, right? And these guys have been eagerly awaiting their turn to be recruitable athletes. So here we are. And I noticed, too, there was a lot of criticism over the weekend about the staff not bringing in portal visitors over the weekend, especially with school starting tomorrow. You know, today is MLK Day. Spring classes start tomorrow, and people are like, well, I don't understand. We still got about a week. But here's the thing that I go back to, right? I'm not going to make excuses for anybody or defend anybody. I would much rather wait than take a guy just to take a guy. We don't need any more JAG Corps guys. You say, Steve, what's JAG Corps? Just another guy. That's in the recruiting vernacular. I learned that from Melvin Smith years ago. He's just JAG Corps. Coach, what's JAG Corps? Just another guy. We don't need any of that. We'd be better off just waiting, right? I mean, that's just, and we're right there at the scholarship numbers now. We're going to see some guys leave post-spring, where they get a chance to be evaluated and kind of see if they fit the new schemes. And there'll be a couple guys that'll leave. I mean, you need to be prepared for that. But I've seen some people say, hey, we may take 10 more transfers. I have not heard or seen anything anywhere close to that. There's a couple more guys out there we're obviously recruiting, a handful of guys out there, and we'd make room. We're not going to turn away good football players. But it's interesting that here we are, a day before spring classes started. We still got a few spots to fill. We still need an edge rusher. I mean, we absolutely have to have an edge rusher. And listen, look at the defensive line numbers. They're not as dire as some people would suggest, but we don't have a difference maker on the edge that you got a game plan for. You go out and get Wilkie Denard from Auburn, and you feel like he's got some projectable potential. This is a guy that redshirted last year. He was highly recruited out of high school, but he didn't play a college snap last year. And so, he may be, a bit of a wild card for you, but you can't expect that. You need to go out there and get a guy. We looked at Nikhil Webb-Walker for a while. We elected not to take him. Nikhil, really nice young man, and headed to Colorado now. Wish him the best. And I don't know. I mean, it's like we're not putting together a Boy Scout troop here. While Nikhil Webb-Walker is a nice guy, wish him the best, but he may not be a difference maker for us. And so I get it. If you're not totally sure about that guy, you don't take him. You let him go elsewhere. Because as Melvin Smith told me years ago, it's not the kids that you don't get that get you beat. It's the kids you sign that can't play. And so we don't need to just go take an edge rusher to take one. You got to go get a guy that can make a difference. If he's not better than what you have, he's not more dynamic than what you have, you're better off just kind of waiting. And then we'll see what happens. And, of course, the transfer portal window is closed for most schools in the country. It's open for Alabama players for about another 4 weeks, and now it's open for Washington players. It'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. Now that Washington has hired Jed Fish, now the portal's open for Arizona players. And so this window was closed. Now all of a sudden you've got 3 Power 5 programs that some players out there trying to decide, hey, what am I going to do? Am I going to stay here? Am I going to follow my coach? Am I going to look for other opportunities? So there's still some opportunities to be had there. There's not a lot of them, but there are some. That's one of the things you kind of play through all this. You begin to think to yourself, okay, we've gone through the talent pool available in the transfer portal right now. And either some of those guys haven't shown interest in us or we haven't shown interest in them. But we got 15 transfers. It's not like we've just been sitting around, hoping to get lucky. We got 15 transfers. But, yeah, we'd like to add a few more. We could. And so we'll kind of see how that plays out. But anyway, that's kind of where we are with all of that. Now, I want to thank our friends at Bulldog Burger Company. I was there, what was it, Friday night, Saturday night? I don't remember. Friday night. I was there Friday night for dinner, and I had the Mississippi barbecue burger. I almost went with the Sloppy Joe sliders, and I kind of wish that I would have, not because the barbecue burger wasn't great. It's just I haven't had the Sloppy Joe sliders in a while. Sometimes, because I'm crazy, when I get those Sloppy Joe sliders, for some reason, I like to have them with tater tots. You know how there's always that, there's some sides that just match up well with certain burgers and certain entrees. You know what I'm talking about. Sometimes, like when you sit down and eat a sandwich, you got to have chips. You eat a hamburger, you got to have French fries. Sometimes I get onion rings. And I did on Friday night with my Mississippi barbecue burger. I got the onion rings. But when I get the Sloppy Joe sliders, I get the tater tots. And you get that little fondue you can dip in. It's great. It's great. And so I'll be back in there this week to probably satisfy that Sloppy Joe sliders craving. Because, sometimes when your mind kind of gets made up on something, it's not going to relent until you get it taken care of. So prepare a table, Bulldog Burger Company. I'm coming soon for the Sloppy Joe sliders. Maybe we'll go in there for lunch tomorrow. Maybe. We'll see. Hopefully the world still exists tomorrow, right? We get in there and do that, get that taken care of. No matter what you have a hankering for, Bulldog Burger Company has something that will fill that craving. And many of you have your own favorites. I mean, like my daughter-in-law, Betsy, it's her birthday today. Happy birthday, Bet. We love you. We could not have had a better daughter-in-law if we'd done a custom order, right? She's brought so much happiness to our life. She's a great wife, a great mother. It's so great, when you love somebody, like I love my son, and then he loves somebody. So in turn, like the transitive properties of all that, you're like, yeah, I'm just so happy to see this person love somebody that I love, and then you in turn love them, right? She's a mission person. Like anytime that they come to town and we have a chance to go to Bulldog Burger Company, she has to have the mission. So like even the whole 6-hour drive here from Northwest Arkansas, she's thinking about that mission burger. Maybe you feel the same way about your own favorites. Get in there and enjoy yourself. Three great locations to serve you. University Drive here in Stark Vegas, Gloucester Street there in Tupelo, Lake Harbor Drive in the Ridge and Flowwood area. Have the spring rolls as your appetizer. They got it on the menu. It's true. They'll make you better looking. And that's not just, an accident. You guys know. Trust the science. Get that chocolate shake to go, maybe some bread pudding. I'm a big advocate for dessert to go. You should partake in that every chance you get. Bulldog Burger Company, the place where people go to meet, M-E-A-T. All right, let's talk about beating Ole Miss. I love it, man. I do. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. It feels so good to win, right? And not just because of the fact it was Ole Miss. Ole Miss is a pretty good basketball team this year. And you want to beat your contemporaries. And if you remember how they acted last year after they swept us in the season, for the first time in forever. And the way I get it. I mean, look, when you've got somebody that's been ahead of you for so long, like you've had to look up at Mississippi State women's basketball for so long. I mean, you get out there in press conferences and you act like an idiot and things like that. It doesn't get you anywhere. You got to win on a scoreboard. And so last year they did, and it was like they had won the Super Bowl, and their fans that are just kind of casual fans of women's athletics, of course, they just kind of jumped on board with that because it's a Mississippi State Ole Miss deal, right? And so now it's our turn to brag, and we shall. A lot of you have made mention of the post-game handshake. I've saw some people that said that Coach Yo didn't shake Sam Purcell's hand, and she did. I mean, it was quick and it was brief. But listen, we don't need her to hang around for a celebration. But, yeah, she did shake his hand. And so some people have said some things about that just aren't true. But, yeah, for the second straight ball game in SEC play, it's a complete collapse in the fourth quarter by Ole Miss. That tells me there's a strength and conditioning problem at Ole Miss. It's true. Auburn, who upset LSU yesterday. Look at Johnny Harris go, right? Auburn nearly came back and beat Ole Miss last week, with a very, very extensive rally there in the fourth quarter. And I just think the Ole Miss ladies are just simply gassed. When you keep running out of gas in the fourth quarter, that's not always about players. That's about your program. That's about strength and conditioning. That's about your philosophy. So let's run it back here. Ole Miss leads after the first quarter, 14-12. State 19-12 in the second quarter. So we take the halftime lead there by 1, and you get through 3. Ole Miss a good third quarter. Their most productive quarter offensively of the ball game. They outscores 21-18. So it's a 2-point game headed to the fourth. And in the fourth quarter, Mississippi State absolutely whipped the Rebels, 20-6. 20-6. I'm going to tell you this. You only score single digits in the fourth quarter of an SEC game on the road, you're going to lose. And Ole Miss did. And to kind of look at that fourth quarter a little better here, just to kind of break some things down here. So looking at the we'll start with the Ole Miss side of things. Okay, well, let's just do that. Let's just, for the fun of it, let's just look at the Ole Miss side of things for this fourth quarter, because I want to really illustrate how dominant your ladies were. Guys, Ole Miss was 1 for 12 in the fourth quarter. 1 for 12 and 0 for 3 from beyond the arc. They shot 8.33% in the fourth quarter. You're going to lose when that happens. They were 4 of 6 from the line. You start kind of breaking it down there. Goodness, if we had defended without fouling, they may not have scored. They get the one basket there. I mean, it's just, you talk about closing out and dominating an opponent in the fourth quarter. That's what the Bulldogs did yesterday. Jessica Carter, another good game for her. Not quite as good on the glass, but great shooting day for her. 11 of 15 from the floor. Had the one free throw. Got to get her to the line more often. And a lot of that, too, I think when she gets good position, people are just kind of relenting, kind of yielding to her there. A couple blocks there, 23 points. Lauren Park Lane, 35 minutes of action for her, 13 points. The only other Bulldog in double figures. DeBrescia Poe, big three ball late to give State some juice there. But you look at what we did in the fourth quarter. The Bulldog ladies, 7 of 12 from the floor for 58%. And then 5 of 5 from the line. The one three-point attempt we had, we made that too. It was about as dominant as a fourth quarter as you can expect to see between SEC contemporaries. Bulldogs win 69-57. And again, the score not maybe indicative of how competitive this game was until the fourth quarter. And had Ole Miss not had the big collapse against Auburn last week and they were fortunate to hang on to win, you could say, you know what, hey, this is just about Mississippi State being bigger, tougher, stronger. But there's problems in Oxford. I mean, there always are. But you understand my point here. This has happened twice now. Now it's a trend. And it's so interesting to see the Ole Miss fans get out there on the Twitters and get a little salty. And it's so funny, too. Last weekend after Ole Miss narrowly escaped Auburn, Coach Yo took to Twitter to take issue with some of the fans on Twitter. It's very unbecoming for an SEC coach. I mean, it really is. I mean, and you've read some of the things that some of our fans have said about our coaches, but you haven't seen them respond. I don't know what it is in the water up there at Ole Miss. You would say, well, it's the Ross Bjork thing. Well, Ross is A&M now. I don't know what it is about Ole Miss coaches. They absolutely rise to the bait every single time on Twitter. I don't know what it is. They have to. I mean, you never saw Mike Leach get out there and rattle sabers with people after a loss. You don't see Chris Lemonis doing that. You certainly didn't see Vic Schaefer do that. You didn't see Ben Howland doing that. You don't see Chris Jans doing that. If they get out there and say anything on Twitter and they interact with fans, which is rare, right? And to be honest with you, I don't need my coaches out there doing that anyway. I need them coaching their sport. But these people that go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, it's so unbecoming of the position. It's very, very petty. And I haven't looked today to see what kind of reaction that Coach Yo has had to yesterday's defeat and another fourth quarter collapse. I'm sure that maybe somebody somewhere said, hey, Coach, let's put the phone down. It's one thing to get out there and talk trash when you win, And even then, it's probably unbecoming the position, especially when you were very fortunate to win. It's not like they beat South Carolina. And then you lose this one, But, I'm not a fan. Not a fan of the SEC coach getting out there and engaging with fans in the negative way, especially after a loss, especially after a game when you didn't play well. And, I remember one particular tweet that somebody had shared with me that some fan had made some comment about how poorly they played in the fourth quarter against Auburn. And it said she needed to be fired or words to that effect. And Coach Yo says, well, I'll be sure that Keith puts you on the short list. Well, that's real cute. It's cute. I don't want anybody like that representing my university, period. I don't. Maybe you feel differently. I know some people love the Lane Kiffin thing. Elaine will get out there and do all kind of silly stuff on Twitter. To each their own. Maybe it's a cultural thing at Ole Miss where they feel the need to constantly defend themselves and get out there and tell their story. But the headline today is Mississippi State 69, Ole Miss 57. The Lady Bulldogs now 15-4 overall, 2-2 in the Southeastern Conference. Ole Miss falls to 12-5, 2-2 in the Southeastern Conference. But again, big win for us, and thanks to everybody that turned out. Reported attendance 7,101. Really nice basketball attendance for Bulldog basketball this weekend. But next, Mississippi State Thursday night. We're going to need you right back here Thursday night, 6 p.m. against Tennessee. We need to make the hump bump. And everybody here. Next road game comes Monday, a week from today, in Gainesville against Florida. But again, we mentioned Auburn earlier. Big win for Johnny Harrison and beating the defending national champion LSU Tigers. And you start looking at this now and you begin to think about parity within the league. It's a good thing for Mississippi State. We got a good basketball team. We do. And Ole Miss is a pretty good basketball team, too. We're just better. We've got to go up there and win that game up there, too. And that game will take place, for those of you making plans now, that's February 18th. That'll be a Sunday, 3 p.m. tip. Also broadcast on the SEC Network Plus. But, yeah, big win for us. And a pretty crucial stretch coming up for the Lady Bulldogs. We mentioned Tennessee, Florida, and then LSU. And that's going to be the We Back Pat game. That's going to be a Monday night game, 6 p.m. We need you to be here for that. So we'll celebrate the win today and get ready to go play Tennessee later this week. Big win. All right, let's spend time talking about the men's side as much as I really don't want to. We will. And I want to say this before we even get going. To all of you that turned out and made it such an electric atmosphere, thank you very much. And I know Zach Selman feels the same way. Everybody connected to Mississippi State basketball feels that way. It's an atmosphere we've wanted for a long time. And appreciate everybody that turned out. There were a lot of people still looking for tickets very, very late. And the team did not perform as well as we'd hoped, but a game that we feel like we should have won. No question about it. My hope is, let's not give up on team, though, right? Let's not just say, well, Steve, listen, I got all sucked in by the win over Tennessee, and now I'm out because we lost to Alabama. Listen, we don't need that, okay? I get it. It's such a financial commitment and a commitment of your time to come up here. But we're Bulldogs, win or lose. And let's not just say, well, that's it. Guys, the schedule's going to ease up for us just a little bit here. But these first 4 games were legit. And we head to Kentucky next. Going to be awfully interesting. But Alabama, you may recall, was 6-5 after 11. They won 5 games in a row now, 3-0 in the Southeastern Conference. They get us 82-74, and it really felt like at times in that ball game that we had control of the game, and we missed some bunnies, and that has become a consistent issue with us. And one of the things that I noticed too about Alabama, they absolutely get totally out of control. They'll make these drives to the rim, and there's absolutely no chance of them making the shot. I mean, it's like horse or something. And for some reason, we could not defend without fouling. Did the officials have a great night? No, they didn't. That understood. It was the same for both teams. I don't think it was a biased game. I think there were sometimes they let them play, and other times they didn't. Players get confused. But Alabama got bailed out so many times when they would make some ill-fated drive to the rim, and they had no chance of finishing, and we'd foul them. And sometimes those foul calls were a little bit cheap, okay? But we did not lose because of officiating. We lost because we didn't execute when the game mattered most down the stretch. Alabama did. And ultimately, they won the game. We're right there with Alabama. We are. I won't be the least bit surprised if we go to Coleman and have a similar type game. But one of the most disappointing things for me are just free throws, man. I mean, just absolutely free throws, especially down the stretch. And I guess they're tired of people talking about, well, they're tired. It doesn't matter. It absolutely doesn't matter. But Mark Sears, 22 points for them. I thought he took over the game late. And, of course, a guy that's as prolific as a free throw shooter as him, they put you in a situation where you have to foul him, and it's pretty much an automatic 2. And that's what happened down the stretch. 8 of 8 from the free throw line for him. Really good ball game. Got him in some foul trouble earlier in the ball game, and we just weren't able to get separation. I thought one of the guys that made a big difference for them was Grant Nelson. I thought Grant Nelson was outstanding for them. Not a great shooter, but gave us some trouble on the defensive end. Had 9 rebounds, just 9 points. But I thought he was, in many respects, kind of the difference in the game in the half court for us. Because early on, we're basically running the offense through Tulu, and they're doubling, and we're getting these cutters to the basket. Tulu's too good a passer for you to commit to that. And after we began to burn them with that, Nate Oates is like, you know what, we're coming out of this. We're coming out of it. And they did. But at the end of the day, this is a game where Alabama executed, Mississippi State did not. And the stretch that I want to go back to, I guess we'll do numbers quick. Tulu with 15 points, 10 rebounds. Great game for him. Also had 5 turnovers. A couple of them very crucial. Shaquille Moore, 13 points, 3 rebounds. Thought Shaquille was really good, especially early in that second half when we needed a little bit of juice. It's like Shaquille was going to carry us. Cam Matthews got in some foul trouble again. 2 of those fouls were absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. I think sometimes the officials get caught up anticipating calls, but Cam, a dozen points. If Cam doesn't get in foul trouble, we probably win the game. DJ Jeffries, 9 points for him, 7 rebounds, kind of doing what he does. I kind of like this scoreline for him, right? If we can get good rebounding and get close to double-digit scoring with him, we're going to feel like we're in a great position. He played more minutes than anybody. Arguably our best on-the-ball defender. Rams Davis did not score. Can't have that. Trey Fort came out, hit a couple big shots for us, both of them threes. Josh Hubbard off the bench with 14. And it's interesting, now people are beginning to game plan for Josh, putting a bigger, longer guard out there, even though he's so quick with the release. It'll be interesting to see kind of how he adjusts. But down the stretch here, we had our chances. And that's the thing. We talk about officiating. We talk about this other stuff. Guys, with 5 minutes to go, it is a 2-point game. And then DJ Jeffries has the opportunity to go to the line. We are down 69-66 at this point. And he makes the free throws. So it is a 1-point game at 5 minutes to play. And then we get a block from Sean Jones and have the ball, and we take the lead. Tolu down low, up and in. So 4 minutes to go, we have a capacity crowd and the lead. And this is one of those things we've been kind of envious of for years. It's like down the stretch, we need the crowd to kind of take over the ball game. And you couldn't really tell on TV, but the crowd did a good job. Next thing you know, Riley Green gets a layup up and in. Alabama takes a lead back. We go down and completely blow this offensive possession. We had 2 shots down low, couldn't make them, and give up a 3-point. Sears goes down and pops the net. Now all of a sudden it's a 4-point game with 3:50 to go. Shaquille goes down, gets us a basket, and then we pull even. Cam Matthews down low, just absolutely willing that ball in. It is a tie game, 2:42 to go. We couldn't ask for anything better right here. I mean, honestly, let's just be fair with it. Well, Steve, we could ask for a 10-point lead. Yeah, but you understand my point. At home, capacity crowd, we've survived their little barrage of 3-point shots late. And now we've turned this thing back into a half-court game. We got to play well defensively, and we did not play well defensively in this game. There were stretches, but consistently, no. Sears makes a jumper, pushes Alabama up 2. Well, then they foul us. Grant Nelson fouls Tolu Smith, our leader, our All-American. We go to the line, and we miss them both. A chance to tie the game at 2-minute mark. We don't get it. Then Grant Nelson fires up a 3. Josh Hubbard gets the rebound, and then they steal it from Tolu. Tolu rallies back, gets a block shot here, and then Grant Nelson fouls Cameron Matthews. And then Cameron Matthews misses both free throws. Guys, it is a 2-point game with 34 seconds to go. We are at the line with a senior, and we miss them both. We end up having a foul, and then Sears, of course, makes both, pushes it out to 4. They foul us again, and then Shaquille Moore, a guy that's been in college long enough to be a doctor, it seems, misses both free throws. And at this point, it becomes academic. But the bottom line is this. When we have opportunities to win and close out games, our senior leadership has to do that. And we were incapable of doing that. And listen, I get it. Tolu's not really back in the SEC position yet. I mean, let's just be fair about that. But Cameron Matthews and Shaquille Moore played all year. So if you want to say, okay, Tolu is probably gassed. Okay, and listen, it does show up in free throws because you start leaving them short. But this is the Southeastern Conference. This isn't the YMCA. And you got some guys out there that have played a lot of basketball for us. And when those opportunities arise, it's one thing if it's one guy. It's 3 guys. And it's not like you had Josh Hubbard, who missed 2 big ones early in the ball game. Down the stretch, you've got to be able to rely on your senior leadership. And it didn't work out for us. It didn't, and it's a disappointing loss. Alabama is a good team, better than their record indicates. But if we're going to get to where we want to get, we got to win these games. Now, we're still good in all the metrics. I mean, the net is good. We're in the tournament, right? We are right now probably 8-9, right? But we got to win these games. Then we go on the road and play Kentucky on Wednesday. That's going to be on ESPN2. It's tough for us to go win in Rupp. It is. And for those of you in the area, if you can turn out and go, we're going to send Justin Frommer and cover the game. But pretty significant ball game. If you win that one, you feel really good about life. You do. But our season's not going to be judged on how we do in Lexington, Kentucky if we win. If we lose the game, a game we're expected to lose, the season isn't wrecked. But if you start thinking about this 4-game start, you wanted it to get a split. And then what happens is you end up probably winning against the best team in the conference, and you think, wow, yeah, that South Carolina loss really makes this Kentucky game all the more important. And then on Saturday, we'll be back. We'll have Vanderbilt, and then we go to Florida. And then all of a sudden you start looking at this and you start thinking, okay, now we're going to start playing our contemporaries. We're not going to play what's considered, the elite. We'll get Texas A&M late. We'll get Kentucky late. We'll get another opportunity at South Carolina late. But if we can navigate, if we can find a way to win 2 of these next 3, you start feeling like, okay, things will begin to even out for us. And I think we'll have some opportunities, to really pad the resume a little bit. But, it is what it is. But, yeah, it's a game. The South Carolina game hurt even worse just because I don't think South Carolina's as good as Alabama. Alabama's a team that's had our number in recent years. Even we've been really, really good. Alabama has been really good under Nate Oates. But that's where it stands today. And the Alabama game is over. Now we turn our full attention towards Kentucky. And again, if you're in that neck of the woods, please turn out and go support the Bulldogs. It's always great to hear and see our fans on the road. And many of you have that opportunity when you can. I don't know what the weather's going to look like by then, but hopefully things will have cleared. It's going to be really cold, so a lot of this snow may continue to accumulate, not melt off. But I'm in no way giving up on this team. I'm no way giving up on Chris Jans, and I would encourage you not to do the same, to kind of hang in here with us. We knew these first 4 games was going to be a real litmus test for this team, and maybe we haven't passed with flying colors. But we're right there in the thick of things. We are an NCAA tournament team. We are. And it kind of had that feel with State and Alabama. And Alabama as a team is going to just continue to get better. And again, they've won 5 in a row. And as well as I do, we beat Tennessee. That got their attention. They knew it wasn't just going to be a bus ride over here. Let's just show up and go through the motions. They knew it was a ball game. And in the end, they executed and we didn't. And that's the difference in the ball game. Not officiating, not fans, not hot dogs, none of that stuff. They executed, we didn't, and that's what happens. And listen, coaching wins and loses you close games. It does. But at the end of the day, when the coaches put you in a position to be successful and get you to the line or get you an open look, you got to knock down shots. You got to make plays. Nothing that Chris Jans did during this ball game, but I'll look back and say, you know what, that cost us the game. No, we got to execute. And that's the most disappointing part of it for me is it's guys that we usually can count on to step up and make plays for us down the stretch. Just didn't get it done. All right, time for today's Top 10 list. As always, brought to you by closewithblair.com. That's C-L-O-S-E with Blair, B-L-A-I-R.com. Blair Chandler is a mortgage professional. Blair is a guy that's been in this industry a long time, coming up on 23 years, guys. Nobody stays in any industry for 20-plus years unless they're a basketball official and does a mediocre job and continues to maintain their job. I kid. But Blair is a winner. Top 1% close ratio in the country back-to-back-to-back years. You could entrust your mortgage in the hands of a lot of people. But why not do it with Blair Chandler? A guy that knows how to navigate through the labyrinth that is underwriting, knows how to structure your loan and the best way to get it approved. That's why Close with Blair makes a lot of sense. Visit the website, learn more about him, or better yet, give him a call or text today. It's 601-500-2344. Again, that's 601-500-2344. Maybe you're looking to move. Maybe you're getting married. Maybe you're beginning life. Maybe you're restarting life. I don't know. But you've got needs in the mortgage industry. It's best to be with a mortgage professional. Recently made the move to Priority One Mortgage. Just a great guy all the way around. A great friend of mine. I don't do business with people I don't trust. Neither should you. Don't gamble with something like your mortgage. Give Blair a text or call today at 601-500-2344. Again, it's 601-500-2344. That goes directly to Blair. Not through a receptionist, not through a call center, directly to Blair Chandler. Blair also a Bulldog, season ticket holder, multiple sports. There's a place here. I like to keep it in the family whenever we can. All right, today's top 10 list. It's a modern rock band, and I'll be honest with you. I have been one of the things about this band. The vocal delivery of this is so similar in every song, and so I don't know. After a while, every song kind of began to sound the same to me. You know, the guitar work is ridiculous. I mean, as far as like riffing goes, it's great. This is a Danish rock band. It took them maybe 4 albums to break in the States, a band called Volbeat. And they have a huge following. Huge following. If you listen to Sirius XM Octane, you're very familiar with Volbeat. They've had several number ones on there. But the vocal thing is a little bit of a challenge for me. But it does give me some inspiration to think, you know, if this guy can get a record deal, maybe I can too. But nevertheless, I kid. Volbeat, huge band around the country. 8 albums for them. And what's interesting, too, is singer Michael Poulsen basically does it all. And he's also a boxer. So, like, if somebody gets a little bit unruly on stage, Mike will knock you out, right? He can go out there and lay down the rhythm guitar and sing. And then also, if things get out of hand, Mike doesn't need security. He can handle himself. It's pretty crazy. It really is. But Poulsen originally began like in the death metal scene and didn't like it, just didn't fit what he wanted to do. And put together this band. Basically, it's a rock band, kind of postmodern rock. It's so funny, all these funny labels we put on stuff. Some people call it, you know, heavy metal, hard rock, whatever. It's a rock band. That's probably the best way to just describe them. They're a rock band. So here are my top 10 Volbeat songs. Number 10 is Heaven Nor Hell. Now, this is another one. You know, this is when they really had broken in the States. Let me see if I can look this up here on the discography. Because it all started with them with an album called The Strength, The Sound, The Songs in 05. But they really didn't break in until 2010. There were a couple things, you know, that kind of made their way over. And this is that album. This is that 4th album, Beyond Hell, Above Heaven. The 4th studio album came out in 2010. But what's interesting is they also brought back another one of our songs to be later in the catalog. It's like as they began to find some success in the United States, they're like, hey, well, this is a song that maybe you guys missed. And so they got it out there for you. So Heaven or Hell, number 10. Number 9, Last Day Under the Sun. Now, what's interesting about this one, this is really more rock radio friendly. Like you could have heard this on a top 40 radio station. It's not as heavy, The bass line's not as deep. The vocals just kind of in line with what you'd expect for rock radio. And I'm talking more terrestrial radio, right? Not really, satellite radio or things like that. But this is like something you would have heard on a regular radio station when that was a regular thing. Number 8, Doc Holliday. Got a nice little acoustic intro to this one. I'm a big fan of Doc Holliday. Tombstone's one of my favorite movies of all time, as many of you all probably share the same sentiment. We could probably do a top 10 of best scenes in Tombstone. There's times in my life I probably could have recited the whole movie for you. I've seen it that many times. Loved it, love it, love it, love it. Doc Holliday, an American hero. Number 7, a song that really got on my nerves after a while because it was so incredibly overplayed. It's Lola Montez. I don't know the story behind the song, but it is a little different than the rest of the catalog, and it was a hit, so let's work it in there. Number 6, Dead But Rising. This is a good one here. This is one of those songs like, it's all over and done with, but I'm not going to give up. It's really a song of empowerment, and musically, compositionally, it's a really, really good song. Number 5, I think the guitar on this is really next level. And there were times that this was my favorite Volbeat song, but it's the Hangman's Body Count. The guitar on this is just sublime. I mean, it is. I mean, even if I would live this song even if it was just an instrumental. I mean, forget the vocals. But the guitar on this itself is what drew me in. I was like, this is phenomenal. I could sing over this myself. It's so beautiful. Number 4, another one, and again, Mike does a lot of this. I don't know, it's kind of restrained yelling, I guess you'd say. It's like, I know it's all a studio creation, right? I know it is. Because it's like, he pushes himself, but it's kind of muted. And that appears on this one. But The Devil's Bleeding Crown, lyrically, a great track. And again, musically, I think in many respects, one of the better songs, which is why it's number 4, obviously, in the catalog. Because the percussion on it is great. And it's just one of those songs, if you know this band, you know this song. Number 3, really my gateway song, really America's gateway song to Volbeat, was Still Counting. It's kind of a clever, kind of silly song. And it starts out with kind of a little reggae guitar riff. And it's like I'm counting all the buttholes in the room. I'm definitely not alone, right? And so that's kind of how the song starts, kind of being kind of silly. Next thing you know, we're hammering it in, baby. It's a rock song all the way through. But Still Counting, and again, that's really the first song when Volbeat began to break in the States. The guys are 4 albums in before they broke. Of course, they were huge in Europe. Huge. And if you remember the movie Singles, huge in Belgium. Huge. Number 2, heard this song yesterday, and which kind of pushed me over the edge. Like, okay, we finally need to give these guys their due. I love it, man. I love this song, and it's Seal the Deal. And then it's from Seal the Deal and Let's Boogie for a while. I never really expected a Danish rock band to use the phrase Let's Boogie. That sounds more Earth, Wind, and Fire to me. But Seal the Deal is a ripper, man. It's like that guitar from the very beginning. It's kind of reminiscent of like 80s Dio in some respects. Like you can almost feel some influence in the guitar player here. Like it sounds a little bit like Rowan Robertson or Vivian Campbell. It definitely feels just like a straight ahead rock song. Like it's not in any way like germane to the time. It's just really kind of a throwback feel. And I like it a lot because we have all this over-processed rock music, and if I ever do anything again, it's going to have to be. But Seal the Deal, and I think one of Mike's better vocal performances too. But number 1, it's a Warrior's Call. Absolutely love this song, and to me, it's an easy number 1. And again, it's one of these things you think about, in life. Like I like to listen to music that is empowering. I'm a firm believer in garbage in, garbage out. I do. I believe that not just physically, I think mentally, spiritually, and emotionally. I think when you listen to songs that are depressive, that are, quote, reflective of your mood, I think it keeps you in that mood. I think when you're down and depressed, you need to go listen to something that's encouraging. You need to go listen to something that's like, hey, let's snap out of it. And I think most of Volbeat songs is kind of what it is. It's really more of, it's anthemic in some respects. It's like it's a call to victory. And I need that in my life. I don't know what you need, but there's some times that I'm down and depressed, and I'll listen to some songs, and you kind of wallow in the mire a little bit. But I like bands that sing songs of empowerment and encouragement. And while Volbeat's vocal performance is never, it's not Miles Kennedy from Alter Bridge or Brent Smith from Shinedown by any stretch. But these guys have developed a huge following. And I think a lot of it's just people want to rock. It's like, you know what, he may not be an operatic singer, but these guys write songs that resonate with me. These guys write good, straight-ahead rock and roll music. It's not a bunch of computers. Like if Volbeat lost their iPad, they would still be able to put on a show. I have seen bands that have gone on social media, guys, we have to cancel the show because somebody stole all of our iPads. I mean, let that sink in for a second. And I get it. There's so much that goes on with lighting and other things. But the fact that you'd have to cancel a show because you can't get up there and go play your instrument. And listen, I get it. There's so many layered parts to this now. In some of these bands that I love, and there's so much to it. Like there's so much volume. And there's so many things that happen in the background. And if you didn't have all that little nuance in music, the show wouldn't be the same. But you're going to turn people away because you couldn't do that? I think you show up and you say, hey, guys, here's the deal. Somebody stole our iPads, and we're going to go get this thing taken care of. Not to mention, isn't that stuff in the cloud? You couldn't run out and go buy another iPad? I mean, you're doing that bad? I mean, come on. I don't know people's jobs. But Volbeat could just plug it and play. Aerosmith could plug in and play. Motley Crue could plug in and play, despite what people suggest. We got new Motley music coming this week, too. How about that? New Motley this week. Can't wait. It's going to be a single. We don't have a full album together yet, but the first single with John 5 as an official member. Excited about that. But I like bands that can just play. And I remember seeing a video here a while back. There was some music festival. They had to cancel because of some weather. And Papa Roach and Shinedown, and I can't remember the kid's name, but the guy that had the big song about the rich men north of Richmond, he was at the festival, and they just gathered up, and then they just performed acoustically for like 400 or 500 people. Those are real bands, man. Those are bands that really care about their fans, and I appreciate that aspect of it. But it's so interesting that music has become so theatrical. And we've added so much due to technology and with computers and things like that. And it makes it really cool. But the fact that we can't pull it off live without the technology is interesting to me. It's almost like you can't play. It's like auto-tune for bands that can't play an instrument. So we just program all this stuff. And listen, when I was in the dance industry, that's what happened too. We had a lot of stuff that was programmable, right? You'd have a track and you just, I had a guy named David. It was a keyboard player for us. It was phenomenal. And he could listen to songs and he would say, oh, yeah, well, there's this. And he could go pull all this stuff out and then program it. And so when you got ready to play that track and you had the MIDI cable and all this kind of stuff, it was different back then. And so all that background stuff was still there. But you know what? If we didn't have that, or if we had a disc that failed, we could still perform, right? So it's a different day and time. It is. But I get it. And nobody wants to go out there and put together a subpar show for their fans. But I appreciate bands like Volbeat, even though they're not my favorite. They just go out there and play good straight-ahead rock and roll. They don't need all that stuff to show you a good time. So if you don't know the band, I encourage you to get into them and give them a shot. But I think you'll see what I'm talking about vocally. It's not top shelf by any stretch of the imagination. But, man, some of the music on these albums, and the guitar parts especially, absolutely ridiculous. And what's cool about this, too, is like, if I remember correctly, when they were recording in the big American debut, is the guitar player quit, and then like the producer just kind of came out of the booth and just grabbed the guitar. There's a guy who's an accomplished guitar player, and then he became the guitar player for Volbeat. Kind of interesting, but be sure and check it out. If you've got ideas for top 10 lists, reach out, let us know. I've had some good ones here as of late. One of them about what are the best songs ever written. That would take some time. I would have to really think about that. So we get ideas from time to time, and we like to do them here on the show. We'll give you credit if you want it. But hit up Roy on Twitter at Dogmatic67, or you can find us on social media. Send those to me. I'll usually just screenshot them and send them to Roy so I don't forget. And you can find our great list. Friends, the holiday season is here. You're going to be on the go. You got to get out, you got to shop, you got to go all these different events and parties, and sometimes you don't make time for yourself to ensure that you're getting a nutritious and flavorful meal. Let me recommend our friends at Factor, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal delivery service. They can help you eat well for breakfast, lunch, and dinner with chef-prepared, dietitian-approved, ready-to-eat meals delivered straight to your door. You'll save time, effort, and even maintain your healthy lifestyle. In the middle of all that, you're going to be on the go, and you may not be eating as well as you should. So allow the folks at Factor to help you kind of cross meal prepping off your list this holiday season. Skip all the planning, the shopping, the prepping, cleaning up. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals delivered to your door, ready in just 2 minutes, and they're absolutely delicious. I've partaken of these wonderful meals. It's a great lunch portion, too. So like if you're on the go at work, you think, I'm not going to have time to get out and go get lunch today, the Factor meal portion, absolutely outstanding. So head to factormeals.com/boneyard50. That's the number 50. Use promo code boneyard50 and get 50% off. It's my gift to you this holiday season. That's code boneyard50 at factormeals.com/boneyard50. And be sure and get that 50% off. On Spotify under Roy's handle, Dogmatic67. Just hit subscribe. Make it easy for yourself. I had a reaction to, I'll read this to you yesterday. I like to interact with you guys when we all have time. But I got some reviews from a longtime listener. I won't reveal the name. Number one, he says, hey, I didn't want to bug you for a while because I know how busy you've been with the coaching search, transfer portal, etc., but wanted to hit you up real quick. I know you're still busy. None of this requires any response. Well, I know that you get a response. We're getting a shout out on the show. Number one, as always, thanks for all you do for State. You're very welcome. Number two, I love the Cypress Hill list. There are bands like that came out when I was young, and I really only knew a couple of the popular ones like Insane in the Membrane and Superstar. It was fun going into more of their songs. That's what we do. Number three, love the New Year's Eve list of top 2023 rock songs. I'm now a huge fan of Catch Your Breath. Again, this is what we do. I'd never heard of them before. You should do a list like that at the end of 2024. We plan to. And Catch Your Breath, really cool band. New band, really like them a lot. I like the song Dalton a lot. Shame on Me is my favorite one from them, but I really like those guys a lot. Number four, I really love the Shinoda list. I never heard any of that outside of the Fort Minor, and already over, doing exceptionally well for Shinoda on the charts right now. He says number five, Nirvana's still cool. We'll agree to disagree. And then he mentioned Spirit Box and Megan Thee Stallion's collaboration. I'm not really a fan. I like Spirit Box a lot. Spirit Box kind of reminds me a little bit of Evanescence, but maybe we'll do them at some point too. But I enjoy the feedback. I enjoy you guys reaching out and letting me know what you think about some of the bands. And I love the fact too that so many of people are like, I'd never heard of this band before. I heard about it on the Boneyard and have become a fan, or I went and saw this band play. Had some people send me pictures of them at shows, at bands they didn't know before. They become fans of them. And so reach out, let us know if you've got ideas, suggestions, and we may just do it here on the show. All right, next segment of the show brought to you by Campus Bookmart, a Starkvillian institution. Campus Bookmart can cure what ails you, right? You're cold. You probably wish you had that Mississippi State hoodie to put on right now, because even with the heat running in the house, sometimes you just got to put on some more clothes, right? We can't be opposed to that. Nobody's going to provide you better selection when it comes to Mississippi State merchandise other than Campus Bookmart. Been doing it forever and a day. Next time you're in town, go by and see their smiling faces. If you can't make it to town, visit them on the World Wide Web at campusbookmart.net. And by being a loyal Boneyard listener, we'll give you a phrase that pays, and that's BSR, which stands for Beautiful Steve Robertson. That gets you free shipping on all orders over $75. Any order less than 75 bones, absolutely incomplete. Whether you're looking to outfit your home, your RV, your pet, whatever. Anything you need with a Mississippi State logo on it, you can find it at Campus Bookmart. All right, let's talk a little baseball here. Guys, we're 32 days away. Yeah, 32 days away from the Bulldogs taking the field. Now, the first thing that I want to do is let's talk about the preseason top 25 rankings coming out from Perfect Game. Now, D1 Baseball hasn't put their rankings out yet. That's traditionally who I go with, though Baseball America is kind of right there. But Perfect Game kind of beating everybody to the punch here. And here's their top 25. Of course, Mississippi State not rated. Ole Miss not rated. There's a handful of SEC teams that are. We'll start at number 25, Coastal Carolina, winners of the 2016 National Championship. They're back in the mix. Pretty good program up there, pretty solid mid-major. Not really anybody you want to show up as a number 2 in your regional because they traditionally have enough sticks in that order to kind of make things competitive. Number 24, UC Santa Barbara, a program last year that did some pretty good things. There's always going to be a little West Coast flavor in this, but by and large, there's just not a lot of California teams that make the top 25. They just don't. Number 23 is Duke, and what a good program they've built there at Duke. A lot of discussion over the years, about UVA and Clemson and Florida State, and interestingly enough, Florida State not ranked again this year. But Duke has kind of made themselves into a upper echelon team in the ACC, another team you don't want to see in the Super Regional. This is a team that's not scared. And the ACC, while it's not the SEC, is still a really good baseball conference. All right, number 22, Oklahoma State. In my estimation, one of the top 15 baseball programs of all time. These are guys that consistently recruit at a high level. They develop players, and it always seems like they can swing it. They come in at number 22. We mentioned Clemson earlier, number 21. The Tigers, are they back? Are they not? They're a team that maybe hasn't achieved their full potential in recent years, but a top 25 nod for them, which puts them firmly in the mix for a potential hosting opportunity if they can live up to expectations. Right there in the cusp. Number 20, Kansas State. Sometimes I think this is more of a product of the league in which they play in because the Big 12 has been so top-heavy in recent years. I'm not sure what to make of this team, but it will be interesting to see what happens in the Big 12 this year with so much of a shakeup. As you guys know, Texas and Oklahoma are going to be part of things pretty soon for us. Number 19, our friends at NC State. They do such a great job there. I would have loved to have played those guys in a National Championship Series. I think it would have been great. And Elliott and those guys have just done such a good job consistently putting a quality product on the field. I will never forget in 2021 being at Omaha. Of course, they canceled the Vandy, all this craziness. They didn't cancel the game, but they had some players that couldn't play because of COVID protocols. Remember that? And so I'm walking down through the tunnel to get to the media area, and security stops me, and they're bringing those kids out of the dugout, kids that were unable to play that day. And NC State pieced it together. I think they had 11 players available and gave Vandy all he wanted. And I remember Kumar Rocker flexing on these guys. They had walk-ons out there just trying to piece a game together. But nevertheless, NC State not given the opportunity to advance. Vandy gets the game off and then still loses to Mississippi State, the 2021 national champion. Number 18, UCLA. We talk about California baseball a lot. One of the reasons that I think California baseball has kind of dipped a little bit is so many of those kids want to come south because the quality of baseball in the South, and you see it every year. You see these California kids that want to make the big leagues, want to play a big-time environment. They're making their way to the South. That's happened with greater regularity. Now, 20 years ago, that wouldn't have happened because you had USC and UCLA out there. A lot of programs, Stanford, of course, and the Cardinals still doing a great job. David and those guys done a great job out there. But UCLA at number 18. Number 17, Cliff Godwin, ECU. It's so interesting, too. I remember all the discussion, and people thought, well, Cliff Godwin turned us down. Cliff Godwin did not get the opportunity to come to Mississippi State. It's interesting that he's still there. A great coach, but have not really had the opportunity to make the move I think some people thought, which is interesting to me because he's basically made ECU a baseball school. There really wasn't much in the way of tradition there, but here they are again, preseason, top 25, and another team you really don't want to see in a super regional. They haven't broken through just yet, but it just seems like a matter of time. Number 16 from the Big Ten, it's Iowa. It almost makes me think, this whole deal with Iowa, they had a good run in a non-conference last year, and then the Big Ten's not a great baseball conference, but it's interesting that Iowa was there. Remember, Iowa beat LSU last year. Remember that? Yeah. Number 15, Auburn. And I'll be honest with you, and I know I've got some Auburn folks who listen to the show, I think this is a little bit high. Now, you've got Gonzalez coming back, missed last year, great kid. He has not had great success against Mississippi State, but they didn't have him last year. He expected to be their Friday night guy. They're expecting him to be good to go. I actually met this kid at a wings joint there in Auburn last year when I covered the series down there. Met his whole family. Even though that he wasn't playing, his whole family comes for the weekend, dresses out in Auburn gear. But, it's not surprising to see Butch and those guys consistently putting a good product together. Number 14, North Carolina. We've had a lot of tangles with them over the years. And you look at these rankings, you begin to ask yourself, is this the year of the ACC? I'm going to say no. Yeah, I'm going to say no. I think the ACC will beat each other up. I think there's going to be a lot of teams that make the NCAA tournament with around a 500 record in conference in the ACC. I think North Carolina is going to be one of them. I don't think North Carolina ends up being a host site. That's how I feel today. Number 13, South Carolina. I think South Carolina is a little bit overrated. I'm just going to say it for how I feel. Maybe you guys see it differently. I think South Carolina is going to be one of these programs that they're going to have to rely on some of these transfer ins to make a difference. Pitching-wise, like you talk to people in college baseball circles, they were having to really, 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 really work hard to find arms. And, of course, Justin Parker leaves South Carolina, coming to Mississippi State. Definitely a step up for him. Even though South Carolina is a great program, it's won multiple national championships. The commitment there, not exactly a good deal. Not exactly a good deal. Number 12, Stanford. Last year I thought Stanford had a chance to win it all. They blew it, but they're right back. And, of course, they lose Braden Montgomery. Of course, it's gone to A&M. That's a team last year was kind of built to win. They will, in my estimation and the estimation of most people, will be one of, if not the best teams in the Pac-12 this year. They'll be right back in the mix for Omaha. Number 11, Tennessee. I expect Tennessee to take a step back a little bit this year. I think 11 is probably a little bit high, but they're certainly a top 25 team. They can swing it, and as long as Tony is there, they're going to have kids that can compete. I'm eager to see what that pitching staff looks like this year. But they just keep running guys through there, right? It's a culture thing now. Number 10, Virginia. Brian O'Connor, of course, a guy that, outstanding resume, won national championships. They're consistently in the mix. Of course, they're a part of our big story in 2021, the big comeback game there. They managed it really well. They just ran out of arms. You know as well as I do that was a team that was built to win that year and just couldn't quite get over the hump. Number 9, Oregon State, always in the mix, always. And that's the thing. It's going to boil down in the Pac-12 between Stanford and Oregon State. I haven't looked to see where that series is this year. Oregon State always has pitching. Oregon State is a baseball school, which is so incredibly interesting considering where they play. And you look up there, I remember they were boasting record crowds of like 3,200 people. That's a Tuesday for us. All right, number 8 is Texas. Now, Texas should have won the national championship in 2022. They were built to win it. Of course, you had Melendez and those guys coming back. The pitching just didn't work out the way they had hoped. They make a pitching coach change. Texas is always going to have dudes. One of the most storied programs in college baseball history. Certainly think that they're going to bring a lot to the SEC. It'll be interesting to see when them and Oklahoma begin to play an SEC schedule instead of a Big 12 schedule that's very top-loaded. Number 7, Texas A&M. I don't agree that they're a top 10 team. Are they a top 25 team? Absolutely. Absolutely. And you think about, that offense adding Braden Montgomery. Where are they going to be pitching-wise? Like last year, it was kind of a smoke and mirrors deal. They didn't have great pitching. They just had really good pitching and played really good defense. And they swung the bats pretty well. But can A&M get over the hump? Of SEC programs, they're among the most anemic when it comes to Omaha over the years. They just have not done well when they've gone to Omaha. Are they capable of getting to Omaha? You better believe it. But it's going to boil down to pitching. Number 6, Vanderbilt. I thought last year Vanderbilt was going to take a step back. They did, and you'd expect that. Vanderbilt obviously has some built-in, right? Some built-in incentives there that make them a really good baseball program, but let's kind of call it for what it is. I mean, they've done a great job there. They really have. Are they a top 10 team? I don't know. But I think when you work through the schedule and there's so much parity in the SEC this year, I think Vanderbilt obviously will be a team that's in the mix, certainly to host and possibly get to Omaha this year. Number 5, TCU. Guys, I'm just going to tell you, Kirk Saarloos, as long as he is there, they're going to pitch it. Don't know what they're going to have offensively, but they're going to win low-scoring games. They're going to win tie ball games because that's who Kirk is. That guy's an alpha, one of the best pitching coaches in the game for this generation. There's a reason that TCU hung on to him when he had opportunities to go elsewhere because they knew what they had. Slosh, of course, leaves and goes to A&M. It was an easy situation. You just promote Kirk, and widely respected around college baseball. Florida at 4. Now, Florida had a chance to win it all last year. They had all that pitching. And as long as Sully's there, they're going to have pitching. But it felt like last year they had the right mix of offense and pitching. And I remember down the stretch in the SEC tournament, they got in the postseason, you're thinking, all right, the Gators are peaking at the right time. I just don't think Florida's a team that does a good job as front runners. I think Florida is one of those teams when they're expected to finish behind Vanderbilt and Tennessee. I think Sully uses that as motivation. So it'll be interesting now that they're picked ahead of Vanderbilt and ahead of Tennessee, because Tony Vitello at Tennessee will wear that like a badge of honor. When they end up playing Florida, he'll remind everybody of these polls. Number 3, the defending national champion LSU. Listen, LSU's going to be really good. LSU still has Tommy White. LSU plays in that crackerjack of a ballpark. They're going to hit a ton of home runs. I'm glad we get them up here early when it's still cold. Maybe the ball won't travel as much. But it's one of those situations. I think LSU in many respects got ranked based off last year. They're not the number 3 team in the country in my estimation. They're going to be really good. But they lost a ton. An absolute ton. Number 2, Arkansas. I think this could really be the year that Arkansas does it. I really do. You look at Hagen Smith, he's supposed to be back. Dave Van Horn is one of these intense guys that demands excellence, and he gets it. He gets it. That Arkansas team is going to be absolutely loaded. They're my pick to win the SEC, and clearly the same pick as a perfect game. I think this could be the year for Arkansas, provided they stay healthy. That's one thing that's happened the last couple of years. They've run into some pretty major injuries, especially on the pitching side. Remember Brady Tiger was out for a while, former Mississippi guy, But yeah, Arkansas is capable of winning the whole thing. Number 1, Wake Forest. They play in a silo, right? They're going to hit a ton of home runs, and then they're going to get into postseason play, and they're not going to be able to do it. It's amazing. You go out and you tattoo one, and it leaves in that little ballpark up there, and then you go do it at TD Ameritrade, and it's a routine fly ball to left. So Wake's going to be able to pitch it. Everybody knows this, one of the best pitching coaches in the country. And they bring a lot back from last year. They did lose some players, especially on frontline pitching. But, when you can go out there and replicate that and bring in some people that know what they're doing, it makes good sense to be able to do that. All right, sticking with some baseball stuff. We mentioned we're 32 days away. Mississippi State will open February 16th. Valentine's Day weekend. Bring your sweetie out to Duty Noble Field. Air Force is your opening weekend opponent. We're going to play a 3-game set. Now, look at the Falcons last year. Guys, they went 28-31 overall, 17-13 in their conference, and 9-20 away. It should be an opportunity for us, right? We got to get out of the gate strong. And you begin to think about, okay, well, Steve, it's Air Force coming in. They're going to be well coached. They're going to be a program, obviously, that should play pretty good defense. But, they were a losing team last year coming south, and they weren't a good road team last year. So I'm eager to see. They're reporting start time for the game is 6 o'clock, Friday, February 16th, 6 o'clock. And that may change. it may change. But, again, a losing record last year. So Bulldogs getting a program that has historically done pretty well in baseball off of what's been a disappointing year. Now, Austin Peay comes in the next week. Let's go Peay. They were 26-32 last year. They went 15-15 in their conference, 10-19 away from home. So a better road team than Air Force was slightly, but not playing the same level of competition. So eager to see what those guys look like. I mean, it's just a pretty interesting deal, to say the least. But that's a series, obviously, you expect to win. You do, right? Under the best of circumstances, we're Mississippi State. All right, so the next weekend we have Georgia Southern coming in, the Fighting Jared Bancos. A couple years ago they hosted an NCAA regional, one of the better teams in the country. They went 27-29 last year, though. 16-14 in the conference, 10-14 away from home, 0-2 neutral field. But this is a program too that has had some decent transfers at times, and so it'll be interesting to see kind of when those guys come in here. I could see us dropping a game. I don't expect us to sweep through any of these series. I mean, obviously we need to. We need to sweep Austin Peay, but we don't need to get behind the 8 ball early. This is a team that needs to find a sense of itself and establish some roles. But Georgia Southern, even though they had a losing record last year, they'll be a decent opponent. The Mount, right? Mount Athletics, Mount St. Mary's, 25-27 last year. End of the year, 10-14 in their conference, losers three in a row. A decent road team, though, 10-15 in true road games and 2-2 in neutral. So combined record of 12-17 away from their home venue. And you get that a lot with some of these smaller conferences that need to go travel for checks. But we'll break down these teams a little bit more. But again, it's another losing team from last year. So State's 4 of their first 5 weekend opponents had losing records. The one exception is the one just before SEC play, as the Evansville Aces come to town. They went 37-24 last year, 15-12 in their conference, 17-9 at home, 16-13 away, and then 4-2 on a neutral field. So you get 20 wins last year outside of their home ballpark. And you run through their schedule here, guys. They went into Nashville on a Wednesday night and went 17 innings with number 7 Vanderbilt, and they lose 2-1. They're not going to be intimidated to come down here and play. They went to Purdue and took 2 games. It was supposed to be a weekend set. One game got canceled due to weather, and they went 5-2 and 6-4. That's a nice little Power 5 win for you right there. Then they get Purdue in a midweek game, and guess what? They beat them again. And Purdue wasn't a great team last year. But teams like Evansville shouldn't be taking 3 games from Big Ten opponents. This shouldn't be able to happen. Indiana State last year, the Sycamores, obviously a team that's kind of come to prominence there in the Midwest in recent years. Evansville gets the first game 2-1. Loses the next 2, just couldn't score against those guys, but pitched it pretty well. But you start working through this thing and you begin to realize these guys play a pretty beefed up non-conference schedule. Later in the year, they get Indiana. Indiana wins the game 6-2. It's in Bloomington, but credit them for signing up for that. But those guys nearly won their conference tournament in the Missouri Valley. They win the first 2 games, right? They get in the winner's bracket. They lose to Indiana State. They battle back out of loser's bracket, take care of Missouri State, the 2 seed, and then they knock off Indiana State 6-5 and set up a winner-take-all conference final that they lose 6-0. So this team is a win away last year from making the NCAA tournament as an automatic qualifier. So not sure what they got coming back yet. We'll preview them as we get a little closer to it. But as far as non-conference opponents go, I think some people are going to look at that and just say, Steve, we got to kill them. Well, Mississippi State, we should. But that's going to be a quality non-conference opponent. I think it's interesting. We got to get some dubs out there, but you start thinking about the net and things of that nature. It's very interesting to see how we've scheduled this. Of course, you got a couple midweek games against Jackson State, Southern Miss. Curious to see what Southern Miss looks like this year. I think they're a team that will likely contend for their conference championship. As they should, but that every game, with those exceptions, that Southern Miss game is going to be played in Starkville of the first month of the season. And just before we come home to play LSU, we're going to be down in Biloxi at the Hancock Whitney Classic. You guys do a great job down there. I'm going to encourage you to get your tickets now. They're already on sale. And you guys, we sell it out every time we go down there. And it's such a great environment for baseball. And you get south and you have a chance to get out there and enjoy, the nightlife that is Biloxi. And I'll be there. I love going down there. It's such a great trip. And they do such a good job down there at the ballpark at MGM Park. The team has played well down there. And I'm really glad that we take the show on the road. Share with you guys before, so many times I was a young guy that unless Mississippi State came to Jackson or farther south, I didn't get a chance to see them. And so there's a lot of future Bulldogs down there will be attending these games as young kids because their parents think enough of Mississippi State baseball to bring them on a school night. The good thing is those games are at 5 and 6, so you can get in bed by 10. But we look forward to getting back down to Biloxi and we get back to SEC play. But again, you look at this non-conference schedule, and again, we can't assume anything, right? After the last 2 years, we just can't just say, it'd be okay. No. But yeah, we got to take every one of these non-conference series and really have some juice kind of coming in here. And again, we'll break it down as we get a little bit closer and see what teams have returning, and we'll have some statistics, of course, to kind of work through as they get ready to come in. Because by the time you get a month into the season, you pretty much have an identity of who you are and who you can count on. But I'm expecting to win all these series. I know you guys are as well. But that Evansville series is one that we're not just going to be able to show up and just kind of go through the motions. That's a team that's not scared of Power 5 opponents, as they've shown, and a team that's been able to pitch it pretty well too. So by the time we get those guys here, we'll have a pretty good idea of what their identity is and what they're about and who they're about. But it's good to talk some college baseball with you guys, to say the least. I think everybody probably feels the same way. It's like, we still have high hopes for basketball, as we should, but then baseball season is going to be here before you know it. Again, 32 days away. So be preparing to come be a part of this Valentine's Day weekend as the Bulldogs take on Air Force. All right, final segment of the show brought to you by the Stark Vegas Clubhouse. Just Google Stark Vegas Clubhouse. You'll be glad you did. Whether you're bringing a work group to town, which some friends of mine did last week, or you're bringing people in for a ball game weekend, maybe you just want to get away. It's like, I just want to be in Starkville for a while. Google the Stark Vegas Clubhouse and book through the Evolve website. 5 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, pretty incredible area. You get the fire pit area outside, that big porch. You can sit outside and kind of watch the weather. Just have a good time. And it's nice to have everybody under one roof. So instead of booking 5 hotel rooms, you got some common areas you can work, you can congregate, you can watch a little TV, just kind of enjoy being together. Look no further than the Stark Vegas Clubhouse for your accommodations. You book through the Evolve website, use promo code BSR10. That gets you 10% off your stay. You can book the VRBO at the Airbnb if you want to, but our promo code only works through the Evolve website. So again, at Stark Vegas Clubhouse, book through Evolve BSR10 to save 10% off your stay. Now, NFL playoffs are going on, as you guys are well aware. I love this time of year. Pittsburgh will play today. That game got pushed back due to the weather up there. Pretty incredible scene there. But interesting results already in the wild card round as the Texans take down the Browns 45-14. Guys, C.J. Stroud is legit. My goodness, man. It's like all of a sudden, even though Houston's a major city, a lot of people don't pay attention to the Texans. But you need to, right? They're still playing. So Texans take down the Browns. Martin Emerson, season over. What a great year that he has had. Very proud for him. The Chiefs, in what was expected to be, one of those minus 30-degree, feels like wind chill games, the Chiefs win 26-7. So Chris Jones, Willie Gay continue to play well and advance. I won't be the least bit surprised if they find their way back in the Super Bowl again. Last night's game, a lot of people salty about this, but the Cowboys defense did not show up. Packers win 48-32. Not a great game from Dak. Dak had one that should have been a pick six and one that was a pick six. Ultimately, both of those plays played a large part in the final. Huge win for the Packers. Elton Jenkins continuing to play on. So, again, some rooting interest for your Bulldogs. Preston Smith also with a nice big batted pass late in that ball game as the Cowboys are trying to stay in it. But, man, that game was over in the first quarter. I mean, the Dallas Cowboys defensively were just not prepared to play. And the Packers are able to kind of run at will. And it felt like that intermediate passing game was exactly what they needed and got it whenever they wanted it. A lot of zone coverage from the Cowboys. Packers exploit that. 48-32 in Dallas. So a lot of people upset with our guy Dak Prescott, who will have a chance to renegotiate a deal. And you got to think not winning the playoff game doesn't help. So Rams and Lions, our guy Justin Frommer, been a Lions fan his whole life, finally getting a chance to cheer here. They win 24-23. The Rams, a lot of people had kind of earmarked as a team to watch in these playoffs, but their season now over. The Bills and Steelers today, it's a 3:30 game. Excited about that. I think the Bills are going to win. I'm going to watch it nonetheless. And then the Eagles and Buccaneers in primetime tonight. That'll be fun, too. Of course, Fletcher Cox, Darius Slay. So you've got a rooting interest. Now, looking ahead to next week, the Texans to be determined opponent. Packers, 49ers. That game is now set. That's Saturday in primetime. And then the Lions will host somebody. And we'll see how things kind of progress. But a lot of it depends on who wins and all that sort of stuff. So, we don't know where the Chiefs are going to land just yet, but a lot of it will depend on what happens today. So be sure and keep up with that. Obviously, there's a lot of Bulldogs still playing football, and it's always nice when our guys have success on a professional level. Nothing does more for recruiting than guys come in here and develop and become good players and then have the opportunity to make NFL millions and then excel at a high level. Our guy Montez Sweat ended up leading two teams, became the first player in NFL history to lead two teams in sacks in the same season. How great is that? Maybe he'll do some big things there in Chicago. Kind of happy to see him out of Washington. Just a bad organization. But a lot of that, guys are keeping up with it. And again, hopefully the Steelers, the most prestigious team in all of professional sports, will have a chance to advance. But I'm not sure how I feel about the direction of our franchise. To be honest with you, I've been off the Mike Tomlin chain for the last couple of years. Happy we made the playoffs, but who knows what could happen in this ball game. And saw some video earlier of people up there helping shovel snow to kind of get the arena ready for today's ball game. So that'll be interesting. But football again today, and you turn right back around. Got some college basketball to get you through the week. The next thing you know, it's NFL playoffs again. But that's where things stand for sure. I want to thank everybody that's bought When the Bottom Falls. You go to whenthebottomfalls.com. Matter of fact, I had some people hit me up today. Want to know where to order signed copies of the book. It's pretty much an everyday deal. And if you're in Starkville, you can get it at Campus Book Mart. You can get it downtown at Book Mart and Cafe. Selling a lot of books, and I appreciate the support. I've done several recovery podcasts. I was with Neil Woodall yesterday. And you can go listen to that now. You can even watch it. Really appreciate Neil having me on. Back-to-back weeks I've been down in Jackson on Sunday to participate in these recovery podcasts. I did one with the Unabashed Recovery Podcast. It'll be out on February the 19th. I think they record like all the shows at once, and then they produce them and then kind of release them when they want to. But those guys have been after me for a couple of years. Finally had a chance to kind of sit down and talk some recovery. It's so important that we kind of recognize that everybody has a challenge in life, and there's so much about life that it takes some time for us to kind of figure out. And I share that with you just because of the fact in these closing moments of these shows, sometimes I just try to find a bit of encouragement for people. Life is about dreams, and many of them are unrealized. And a lot of them are our own fault. We talk about how fear kills more dreams than failure ever could, because we're scared to be judged. We're scared to put ourselves out there, and scared because it's like, hey, if I never try, I never have to fail. Well, without trying, you never really learn anything. You never really learn what you're capable of. And I just don't want you guys to live an accidental life. And I share that with you because I became a new person when I got clean and sober, and I've got a person that has been very instrumental in my life in every aspect. That's my wife, Dana. Everything I do in many respects is to kind of make her life a little easier. But I take a lot of pride in the fact that she's very proud of my efforts and that my children have seen me kind of become a different person. And thankfully, my children have never seen me intoxicated. It's not a good scene in any stretch of the imagination, but not everybody can say that. And I'm not judging or anything like that. But if you go to whenthebottomfalls.com, you can get that great book, in my opinion, and I'm biased, of experience, strength, and hope. It's been incredibly well received, and I appreciate people that have reached out and shared their reviews and how it's touched their lives. And it's so many people that have said, hey, when I read this chapter, I really saw myself in some of this. And I think that's an important aspect of it. I think the commonality in our struggle sometimes is what binds us together, is that you have an opportunity to realize that you're not alone. And so I encourage you to do that. Of course, you can get all my sports titles there too. That's Alpha Dog, Stark Villains, Flim Flam, and Dogpile. Every Bulldog fan needs a copy of Dogpile. If you don't have it yet, you need to get it, especially with baseball coming up. Kind of prepare yourself, remind you of what it's like to be on top. And I'll start soon. The plan is next week I'll start roughing out the Dude, biography of Dudy Noble. I got some more research, some more interviews to do. But I'm just kind of ready to get the process started, if you know what I'm saying. It's like we've already started looking at some mock-ups of covers and things of that nature. I got people left and right that already want to pre-order the book. I haven't even written the first word. And thank you for that. Thank you for your enthusiasm about the project. They're going to be a limited edition number of copies that we sell early on that'll be different than the rest. And a lot of people have said, hey, Steve, I've heard about this. Can you save me a copy? No, I can't. I don't control any of that, but I will let you know when we're going to do it. And we're going to have a ton of those books that go very, very quickly, and probably only do 150 to 200 or so of those limited edition books. And you say, well, Steve, what makes it different? You're just going to have to wait. You're just going to have to wait. But it has been so incredibly rewarding to do some research on these books. And in addition to that, I've done some other things too. I want to share with you a story. I read about Ron Polk here recently. Coach Polk, obviously, so very special to us. Recently celebrated his 80th birthday. When he got to Mississippi State, he was recruiting this player out of the state of Florida. And Coach Polk obviously made us a national recruiter. For a long time, college baseball was just very much regional recruiting. You kind of worked your tri-state area, and we did really well over in Birmingham. We did well up in Memphis, and of course here in the great state of Mississippi. And so Coach comes in, signs players from all over the country. He was recruiting a young man out of Florida. And a lot of people had told him, he said, hey, Coach, the mom is going to be the one that's the primary decision maker in the family. You're going to have to really sell the mom. And so he goes, well, how do I sell the mom? And I said, well, you're going to have to convince her that her son can get a better education at Mississippi State than anywhere else. Well, at the time, Mississippi State had been named number one in landscaping. We're the number one athletic grass in the country, which is not something that's unique to Mississippi State. A lot of people have had those awards, but Mississippi State historically has known to be able to produce really good grass, really good athletic turf. We've been the surface of multiple Super Bowls. But so they brought that up and about how great it was. And so the kid comes on a visit. They come and look around. They have a great time. And so Coach Polkton waited to hear. They send the young man a national letter of intent. And we got a letter back from him. And the player said, hey, Coach, I just want to let you know I'm headed to Florida State. But I appreciate how hard you recruited me. I think Mississippi State's going to do great under your supervision. But I just wanted to be closer to home, and I'm going to Florida State. But the good news is my mom's going to go to Mississippi State. I'm sure that's all a joke. But it's an interesting dialogue, right, to go back and look at those early Mississippi State classes. And it's been so incredibly rewarding to do the research for this book, The Dude. And when I first committed to doing it, it's like, well, how do we do it? I mean, this man's been dead since the early 1960s. Didn't have much of a family, had no descendants. He and Elizabeth had no children. So how do you go back and reconstruct somebody else's life? And thankfully, the Dudy Noble family has provided me with some family history. I've got a written record of their own research, their own genealogy. I've been down and learned in Mississippi. I've interviewed multiple people. And not done with that yet. So we're not quite ready to say, okay, we've got all of our research done for the book. We don't. But it's book number 7. As I've shared with you guys before, there were times in my life that I thought I would lay on my deathbed having never written a book, and it would be this crippling fear. And then, of course, I wrote Flim Flam, and then I wasn't sure where I was going to go after that. And in many ways, I got depressed because all of a sudden, your name is everywhere, right? I mean, you're on ESPN, and all these people are writing articles about you, and people are driving to Starkville to spend time with me and flying in, and then all of a sudden that ends, and you begin to ask yourself, have I already peaked? Will I ever have a story that big? Well, we won a national championship. That helped a lot. But every one of these books are like my babies, and but this one is just simply different. They're all a little unique in their own respects. Writing When the Bottom Falls was very rewarding and very cathartic for me. But tackling something like the Duty Noble book is completely different. And it's a book that this fan base has needed for a long time. How many of you have attended games at Duty Noble Field and you really don't know anything about him? You can say, well, no, he was a coach here. Well, he wasn't just a coach here. He was one of the most accomplished student athletes to ever play at Mississippi State. He had 12 varsity letters. It's a record that will never be broken. It's shared by a couple of other individuals. But because of back in those days, a lot of the same athletes played every sport. And I don't know if you knew this, but Duty Noble was also a pretty good basketball guard. You probably didn't know that. He was also the quarterback in 1915 when we beat Ole Miss 65-0. And you probably don't understand that we didn't play him for the 3 seasons prior, and you probably don't know why. Well, I've been able to uncover that, done some extensive research. And I'm so incredibly honored to write this story. I can't wait for it to be out. And we're talking months, right? We're not talking our goal is to have this thing out for you August or September, so around the kickoff football season. And we're going to do some pretty special events. I haven't toured extensively for the last couple of books. And we will do a lot with the dude. And so if you're thinking about that, hey, we'd like to have Steve, come speak to the alumni group or whatever, we're always inclined to do that. We'll just come sell books and have a good time with you all and kind of break bread and enjoy all that. But if you have a recovery situation, whether you're part of a recovery group or whatever, or you got, Celebrate Recovery, I get a lot of those people that hit me up, and I'm always inclined to do those. If we can find something that works for me scheduling-wise, that works in concert with Mississippi State's very extensive athletic schedule, then I will make arrangements to be there. And so we'd love to be able to come sell books. We'll have we'll get up and talk about, the path and share that with you. But I've had many people that have reached out about podcasts, about appearances, and there's a lot of that stuff coming. But it's a little different with the dude. I mean, it just is. I think it's a very important book. And as I had somebody at Mississippi State tell me, he said, Steve, if you don't write this book, it's not getting written. And so that all of a sudden shifts from an honor to a responsibility. I feel like in my era as a writer, I've got a responsibility to write this book. And I reached out to Rick Cleveland and I said, do you think this is a worthwhile pursuit? He said, I'll buy the first copy. I wish I'd have thought of it. I reached out to some people that I admire and respect that have had some success as authors. And a lot of people are eager to see what this book's going to look like. And I think right now I've got enough to write you guys a great book. I really do. When I first started, I said, well, it'll be a good book. And then I began to get some more research done and get some interviews done. I said, well, it'll be a really good book. And then I found some other things. I guess, what, this has the potential to be a great book, but I want it to be a legendary book in the Mississippi State fan base. I think this is a book sort of like Dogpile that everybody will want to have, because there is just so much mystery about Duty Noble. We haven't truly celebrated him enough, and I've had some people send me some derogatory things about Duty Noble, and I've researched a lot of that stuff extensively too, and found that many of the things that people report about Duty Noble are kind of falsely attributed to him. And so I'm very eager in that respect to be able to honor his memory, but also to kind of explain that he was a product of the time in many respects. But there's a reason that we named our baseball stadium after him, and I'm going to illustrate for you in this new book. So be looking for that. I don't know when we do pre-sales. It's so interesting. We open up pre-sales in advance. I don't like people to have to wait long. Like you buy the book and then you wait. And then I get inundated with messages, when's the book coming out? And so I've instructed a publisher, let's wait. Once we get the book pretty much finished and into the editing process, then we'll open it up for you guys. Printing's been a much easier dynamic this go around. With Dogpile, it took us absolutely forever. It took us 4 months to get that book printed. yeah, they made promises and commitments to us, and they didn't meet them. But what do, right? You're kind of at their mercy. So I look forward to sharing that with you. It's been a wonderful ride becoming an author, and I'll be honest with you, when I first wrote Flim Flam, I had this incredibly bad case of imposter syndrome. But now this is who I am and what I do. And it's my honor to be able to write about Mississippi State stuff. And that was one of the things when I moved to Starkville I said I wanted to do. I wanted to write books about Mississippi State. I wanted to be able to tell our story. And that's kind of what I'm working towards, to ensure that we're better represented in Mississippi's literary community. There's been a lot of books written about, Ole Miss, and to their credit, right? We haven't had a lot of people write books about Mississippi State. And so I think with this one, I will have written more than everybody else combined. They're, true books, not just, things here and there. But I appreciate everybody's support, and I'll provide you guys with updates as we go. But next week, I'll sit down and write chapter 1 of the new book. That was my commitment to myself, is I wanted to finish doing research, and then after the drop-bad date passes, we got to chase so much portal news, and things are beginning to calm for us a great deal. We'll get started on that, and then I'll write some during the spring. We'll finish up in the summer. We'll have a book for you out in the fall. Look forward to you guys having the opportunity to purchase that. But until next time, let's all live our lives in a way we make more friends than enemies, and people can see a difference in the way we live.